Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to another episode of the Wrist Cheese Radio Podcast. This is episode 46 in your home for horological hot takes, taboo topics, and often unpopular watch opinions. I am your host, Bro Dinky, and with me, as always, is my good friend, none other than Detroit Rock Schmitty. Schmitty, what's going on?
Nothing much, my friend. How are you doing?
Pretty tired. One of my 3 busy weekends of the year, but plowing through and here to do another episode tonight. How about yourself?
Oh, man, always staying busy. I feel like I should be like Post Malone tattooed on my face, always tired.
Yeah, I hear
Um,
that.
but
Feel that.
no, things are good. Recording another episode, getting ready for some more travel here coming up for work, but getting ready also for the long weekend ahead. So,
Yes, and a happy Labor Day. This will be dropping on Labor Day. Happy Labor Day to everybody celebrating in the U.S. For those not in the U.S., it's a national holiday where we kind of remember everybody who has put in work for our country, more or less.
as works hard for us
Yeah.
and for our country. So, very cool. Yeah, man. So, what's up?
Not too much. Again, like I said before, I've been taking it easy a little bit on the content end. I haven't been posting much and stuff. I've been doing little stuff here and there, entering names slowly but surely into Excel every day so I can pick a winner for that Arab Dial Seiko. I'm almost there. On top of work, obviously, and trying to keep up on things. My DMs, I've been finally getting back to a lot of them, and I don't know. It's been so long since I've been I guess a normie, where I can't remember if everybody has this feature or not, but when you go to your messages, at least for me, I have primary, then I have another category that's general, and then a third category that's requests. And if I don't
Oh,
know
yeah.
you, that's where you go is requests. And it
Yeah, yeah,
honestly
yeah, yeah.
doesn't even show me that the messages come in. They're just buried in there. And eventually I find them and I'm like, oh, okay. And, a lot of them are just like laughing faces in response to stories or something like that, or like a fire emoji for a wrist shot or something. But then I get other ones and I read through them sometimes, or I can at least preview them and I don't have to look like I even read them, which is fine. But something that irks me, I guess, a little bit. And I remember what it's like being a burgeoning content creator. Okay. I remember what it's like trying
Mm-hmm.
to get out there, trying to talk to people and be social. But there's a right way and a wrong way.
Okay.
And it doesn't matter what you're doing, there's a right way and a wrong way. Okay. Now, there's a message I have from somebody, and all it says is hello with a wavy emoji. And judging by the person's name, I can already tell that they have their own micro brand, and it's already a no. I know what you want. It's a no already. Have you seen me push anybody's micro brand?
No.
Didn't think so. Right? We had Akbar on the show. He's been a friend of mine since I started the page. Basically, he was like one of the first people to be like, "Oh, you're a funny guy. I like you." Like there was no, "Oh, let's team up and promote my micro brand." No, he's a friend of mine who owns a micro brand. There's a difference, right? So there's those, and then there's somebody else in there who I must have deleted his messages before and I just don't remember, but it's like checking in again. Like we could meet up and do some content together and I can come on your pod and I'm like, no, no, that's not how that works either.
Yeah.
First of all, we don't have that many guests, right? We usually have a guest if you're not going to be around or if something really cool comes on, like when we kind of stumbled across Tom. That
Yeah,
was
for sure. For
right.
sure.
Or and then think about anybody else we've had, right? We've had Kelly, who's pretty well known. We've had, like I said, Akbar. We've the Restorian guys. These are people doing their thing. These
Yeah.
aren't people nobody's ever heard of. That's just trying to make a name for themselves. And again, we were all that person at one time. So I will not deny that, and I have an appreciation for it. But again, there's a right way and a wrong way to go about that. Some other advice for people: if you're going to approach somebody or a group, whatever, an entity, let's just say an entity, have a plan, like have something laid out, because it makes it much easier to just say yes to things as opposed to, well, let's brainstorm this. Well, no, I'm a busy person and I already have my own thing going on. Like I stand to gain very little probably from this. You should be
Yeah.
brainstorming this and come up with something good to the point where I'm going to want to say yes.
Yeah. The elevator pitch.
Right. When when I approach Oris or Nomos, I have a thorough layout, like tip to tail, ready to go. Like, this is how it's going to go. It's going to be great. All you got to do is say I'm in, and look what happens. Success.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
There's a little back and forth, but aside from that, it's mostly, wow, that's well thought out and appears to be a pretty good plan. Let's do
Makes sense for us. Let's go.
it. But that's what I mean. If you're going to be that
Yeah.
person,
Uh, and
have
honestly, man,
something
it's just
planned.
that's just anything that's even just like business.
That's anything in general.
It's having a plan, formulating that plan, and trying to execute it as best as you can, but at least having a plan. Because you're right. I mean, like, you're a busy guy. You meme farm, and it sounds kind of crazy, and it's not like it's crazy difficult, but it is. It's extremely time consuming. In addition to the job that you work so hard at, you know. Same thing for me. Always on the road. We film we record these things when we can. You know, it's crazy. Have a plan.
But have a plan, right?
Have a plan. Yeah.
Same thing. If you're gonna approach your boss about something, have a plan. Even if you're complaining about something that's not working out, say I tried X, Y, and Z. I went this way, that way. I approached it from these angles. I can't figure it out. Now it looks like you've put in the work and you're just missing a
The
small
last
element,
piece.
as opposed to right when you were a kid and you went up to the teacher, I don't get it. Well, what don't you get? I just don't get it. Right. It was always that I didn't understand.
Yeah.
Right. And I was a lazy kid in like the early grades. Like I would forget to do homework and I would just pull the, oh, I didn't get it. They'd be like, well, what didn't you get? Well, I didn't understand, so I didn't try it.
That only gets you so far in life.
It does. And then eventually you learn not to do that anymore. But it's the same principle. It applies. Just have a plan
Yeah.
and have a neat, a niche, have something, a space that only you occupy. You need to be unique, right? If you're going to be a content creator and make a name for yourself, you have to come with something that most people either haven't done or a way that you approach it that other people have not mastered, I guess. Right? Because being the same thing as other people is never a good idea.
No. That's a really great way to get burnout.
It is. And it's a great way to be met with frustration and a great way to be
Mm-hmm.
lumped in with other people and
Yeah.
say, same old, same
It's
old.
it's gonna eventually lead to burnout.
Right. And I know people who have tried to do it. I know people who have tried to hop into the exact same space I'm in and do exactly what I do and burnt out just like that.
Yeah.
And
It's a challenge.
again,
It's a
not that
challenge.
it's not that it's hard, not that it's easy, but try it. Not that easy.
This is why I don't do it. This is why I don't do it.
But and it's not, again, I'm not begging content creators or people who are starting out, but trying to make that kind of a pitch to somebody who has put in work, built up a following, made a name for themselves, and then you're strolling in with your 998 followers and you're like, oh, I got 50,000 views on TikTok. And I'm like, let me go look at this. Right. And it's like the usual, like, Rolex hype piece coverage stuff. Like, okay, yeah, you hashtag the crap out of it. You got views for Rolex. You got views for AP. I know why you got 50,000 views. Not because your content is over the top amazing.
Yeah.
Right.
It's algorithm boosted.
So, uh, I don't know. I guess my thing is just there's no shortcuts.
Yeah.
Be persistent, keep at it, don't get burnt out, but stay in your lane. I guess that's it. Rant over.
Words for the wise. Words for the wise.
Anyway, this is not a bagging on people episode necessarily. A lot of new watches dropped this week. that we're
Yeah,
gonna
they
get to
did.
them. I don't have any real housekeeping aside from the fact that Nomo's sending me a deep pink 38 to take some pics with, so you're gonna see that soon. Uh, we don't need to do new releases because everything's a new release.
Absolutely.
So this is basically a laundry list of new releases. But Geneva Watch Days was recently a thing, and
Was it though?
I think some of the stuff was okay.
Okay. All right.
I
You know,
think
on
it it feels
honestly,
like half like look what we got here, and then half just brands just trying to flex nuts.
yeah, I just to be completely honest with you, I didn't even know it was happening. That's how much I didn't pay attention. And that's why when you were like hitting me with the idea for the episode, I was like, oh yeah, there was a watch event. I need to go back and read everything because it's just like I don't know. I guess it's just different for me because when you're thinking of like what would be a Basel or Watches and Wonders or an SSIH,
SIHH, yeah.
like yeah, like it's just to be expected. And I just forgot that like Geneva Watch Days is like a thing, but it's a relatively new thing. And yet here we are with some new novelties late at the end of the year.
So starting off, I'm gonna give us a little kudos here
Of
because there's a few things that we absolutely nailed.
course we did.
Looking back here.
Call us the crystal ball boys.
So before we get to models, the purple trend is fully just
It's
a
full
rumbling
send.
crescendo right now.
It's full send. It's
Yeah,
full send
it
at this
is.
point.
I saw um and some of these releases talked about in this episode are not necessarily Geneva Watch Days, but they all came out in the recent week. So Fratello did a limited with Japanese company. I'm gonna say it's Minase because that's how they pronounce things over there.
Yeah.
um, Purple Dial, pretty cool little watch. I've never really heard of this brand, and it says they're not that well known outside of Japan, but pretty cool little watch. Really cool purple dial. Kind of gives you sort of like Grand Seiko feeling about it a little bit.
Yeah. At least this version does.
Yeah.
Because this is I think the second collaboration that they've done with the brand. But they did it in a different variation. So obviously an independent out of Japan. But have you seen photos of their other timepieces?
I've not. I've never even heard of this brand before today.
Okay, yeah. So they came out, I think maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, and their first kind of like drop was a very like modern sports watch. And it had a little bit of like, the sport rubbery to like integrated bracelet type look to it. But it was very much like a mashing of different styles. Like it looked like a Grand Seiko, but then it looked like, you know, a Royal Loki type thing. It was kind of just a
So it's
mismatch.
got that amalgam like Tissot, Royal Oak, Grand,
Yeah,
like yeah,
it was
I
just a
get
lot of
exactly what you're talking
things.
about. It was during that period when like everybody was coming out with that type of sport dress watch.
Yeah,
I remember
exactly.
it.
Now it's not quite the same type of like fully integrated case. Like the case actually looks like a normal watch case. But like we've talked about so many times on the podcast before, a lot of their designs were very like futuristic looking.
Okay.
All right. So for any of you guys who are Googling this, as Bro pointed out, Minase, Minase. The first model that I'm talking about is their blue dial that came on either like a textured rubber strap or it looks to be like a 5 link style bracelet. So it almost looks like an Omega like diver 300-meter bracelet, like married to like a dress watch.
Okay.
But very like dome dial, very angular markers and hands and everything like that. When you look at this watch compared to the one they just dropped for Tello, two distinctly different design languages. So my collector buddy that I've known for years and years and years, he actually has the original Manase.
Oh,
So I've seen it. It's beautifully finished. It winds amazing. It keeps excellent time. The movement itself is finished very well too. But it's just a very like interesting design. Not one that myself that I would normally gravitate towards. But this purple one,
I could mess with this.
That's a whole nother story for sure.
And they call it the Very Perry, I guess short for periwinkle.
Maybe.
But I guess that's a Pantone color, so that I guess
Yeah.
that's where it comes from. But it's pretty
Okay.
cool, very cool purple dial, kind of.
And it's got like a textural element too.
Yeah, that's
You know.
exactly what I was gonna say. It has a pretty cool textural element that keeps it sort of light in some areas and dark in other areas, and then a red tip second hand, which is a kind of nice
Yeah.
little tidbit for legibility. I like that.
Again, it kind of sports up a little bit of
Yeah,
what would be otherwise a very dressy piece for sure. And I like it, man. I love the purple color. I think it's a great choice. I like the texture dial. You get a little bit of an iridescence, so I don't know if that's the dial's treatment or if it's a semi-precious stone like mother of pearl or something.
yeah,
But I'm getting 60s Omega constellation vibes straight up from this case.
I could
I
see
mean,
that.
how could it not be, man? Like this is the C case constellation for sure.
And for all of the watches in this episode, this one comes in pretty decent. I think it's like 3 grand.
Yeah.
Not horrible
No, not horrible,
as
but I
far as
mean,
watches go these
it,
days.
but again, for the average person, that might be a little bit of a stretch for price point.
Yeah, and for a
Just
brand you kind of never
given
heard of.
exactly, that's right. I mean, this is a fledgling brand for sure. They've only had a few models, and this one is very different than the other references that they have released before. So we'll see. I like it though. I think it looks cool.
Yeah, keeping with the purple. So in previous weeks we had purple Monaco,
Yep.
purple Panda Chapac.
Yep.
Right now, even some of the more crazy brands out of here, your work Geneva, whatever you want to call it, has dropped a UR100V known as the Ultraviolet, and it is purple AF. It's kind of got their signature off the wall look, except it's just very, very purple.
Yeah. I mean, this is Urwork's, quintessential design language. It's just out there. It's crazy. Not a watch
It's a
that
lot
I
of
would
money.
ever, not a watch that I would ever see myself owning per se. But
56
certainly,
thou.
yeah, certainly a lot of design and engineering. You can certainly not take that away from them. They obviously do time in a very different way. But yeah, this is the ultraviolet certainly lives up to the name. It is a lot of purple, but it looks good. I think it's a
Yeah.
cool color. And we kind of touched on this before when we were starting to talk about purple. I think we kind of predicted it a little bit too, in the sense that it looks like brands are just leaning into this color as, not really like a ladies color or men's color. It's just like we're just going full send. Like it's purple all the way. And it doesn't matter who wants to wear this, whether it's a guy or a girl, purple is going to be the thing.
Yeah, that appears to be it. A watch that is not purple per se, but teeters, I think, on purple. Debitune came out with a perpetual calendar. It's got a moon phase. It's not purple, but I would definitely say it's a blue that is maybe leaning there. Pretty cool looking watch overall. Very clean. Perpetual calendar, I believe.
Okay. I must have missed this one. I don't know if I
So
covered it.
it's got a
Is it?
blue outer ring, uh, moon phase on top
Uh-huh.
at 12, uh, small date wheel at 6, and then day and month at 9 and 3.
Okay. Yeah, I must have missed this one. But I mean, Debethune always makes some pretty crazy watches.
Yeah, I think it's
And
their standard deal, titanium, all that good stuff.
yeah, and they are experts at case finishing and dial finishing, especially when it comes to heat treatments and getting very distinctive colors. I mean, I still remember to this day that blue titanium case is just it's insane. It's insane. So so this is really no different. But that blue, you're right. It really does teeter almost purple.
It's almost like a lilac. I don't know what you call it. It's like a midnight blue, but it's almost there. It's feeling not the purple. It's just not quite purple. But I
Yeah,
think purple is indeed here to stay.
for sure, for sure.
Other
But
places, going back to previous episodes, I believe this was in 2022 wish list. I think one of the ones that made Schmidt's list, the Doxa Army, it is no
yes,
longer just a limited edition.
yes,
I know you
sir.
are hyped about this one.
I am. I really, really am. Because I mean, we had talked about the lawsuit with
Synchron.
yes, with Synchron before. We talked about that they had their own military. I think they call it the military watch, if I'm not mistaken, instead of the army. But this watch, I love everything about it. I really do. I like that it's that you can get it in the PVD black case, right? Because the first one was in ceramic, and that case was amazing, but extremely expensive and only sold exclusively through Watches of Switzerland. This new version, you can get, I believe, the black case, which is gonna be fantastic. But my favorite is actually this new colorway, which I never thought I would actually like. It's green. And
Yeah.
as we know, green's a very hot color right now, but the way they did the green is very cool. So traditionally the army used to be orange, kind of a cream color, and then black. And this new army takes it to a whole nother level because instead of the black, they switched it out for green. And I specifically love that they did the traditional, aggressive cut bezel that Doxa is known for. But again, no traditional Navy dive table bezel. This is going to be a traditional elapsed time bezel, but they did it in bronze. And I just think the green ceramic bezel, the bronze bezel ring, and the green rubber strap, this watch has a lot going for it. Really does.
Yeah. Now you can either get a bronze bezel or a steel bezel. So if you don't like the bronze look, you don't have to have that. And you can get obviously strap, beads of rice bracelet, and docks that comes in pretty reasonable. 2250 on strap, 2290 on beads of rice.
Yeah, 2290, 2250 on
Oh,
strap.
and they're cheaper for the steel, not bronze. 2090
Right.
steel on steel.
Yeah, 2290. 2290 steel on steel with bronze, 2090 all steel.
Yes. And then
I'm sorry.
20.
I was talking about the DLC version. I'm sorry. I misspoke. That
I
was
was
the
gonna I was
ceramic
I
model.
was feverishly
Yeah.
looking for that.
Yeah, sorry. That was the ceramic model I was talking about earlier. Yeah, so now you can get it in steel with either bronze and steel or just all steel. And the all steel one basically looks like the original army that wasn't the PVD version,
Right.
which was more of the rarer version per my understanding. Because I think one of the more qualifications of this watch was that it was one of the early watches with PVD.
Yeah, but even the cheapest one, $2,000, $2,050 for the steel bezel, black rubber strap, goes nicely with the black bezel, huge contrast with the orange on the hands, cream dial, looks awesome. Like that's
I
gonna be a
love I
real hard one to resist, I
I
think.
love it. I really do love it. And this is the first time, to my knowledge, that I've seen green like this on a Doxa.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely this green. This is like a
It's
hunter
like a
green.
hunter green, certainly a forest green, something very similar to that. I mean, again, it makes sense, right? It's the army watch. This is kind of a military green, so I like it. I think it's a home run for Doxa. Um, I got to get my hands on one of these for sure.
They
I
have a
haven't bought a watch this year.
yeah.
Maybe this is the one that I can sneak out. If not, then I mean, this is going to be normal production too, which is going to be great. So, uh, if not this year, maybe next year.
They have a wrist shot of the bronze bezel on the green rubber strap.
It looks so
It
good.
looks really good.
It's just a very warm tone, and that's what I really like about it. It's very warm tones. They look really fantastic. I love this kind of like I don't know, the black and the white alternating color scheme on the dial. I just, oh, man, so many good things to love. And this one I think would be a little bit different of a Doxus style than what I have already. So this would be a cool watch to drop into the collection because I don't have anything like it. That's for sure.
And even more about this wrist shot is it's on a rare hairy wrist. You never ever see product photos on hairy wrists. Repping for the hairies like the rest of us.
Oh, I know, bro. I know.
Hilarious.
What are you gonna do?
Now, on to probably the biggest, at least most talked about drop of this whole
Yeah.
week. One that I personally have been asking for a long time. It's even predated in a meme back to, I believe it was April of last year, a 39 millimeter Pelagos.
Yeah.
Now, there's some mixed feelings about it.
That's putting it mildly.
I think people are in one of two camps. You're either still in favor of the previous generation. Who was it? Was it Jason Heaton
Yeah, it was Jason
who
Heaton.
said he likes the Apex Predator version better?
Yeah, and I mean there was another article that he wrote shortly thereafter that was officially launched on his Substack. So I'm not entirely sure what his finalized thoughts were, but at least in that one post, he still preferred the King of the Deep. So um, we'll see. I got to go back and read that additional article.
Well, there are some differences between the two other than just sizing,
Yeah,
right? From what I understand and from pictures I've seen, they took away sort of the matte styling on the bezel and the dial. The other Pelagos is very, very matte textured.
yeah, it's got a grainy texture.
Right. It's extremely flat. This, I don't know, they try to make it a little more dynamic, but I feel like that was very much what the Pelagos was. I feel like that flat look was its identity a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah. I mean, this I've said it in our group chat, and we've talked about this, and I know a lot of people are gonna love this watch, and they're swinging over it right now on IG. And there's no reason that shouldn't be happening, right? Objectively, this is a watch that so many people have wanted,
Correct.
right? It's a titanium diver. It's 39 millimeters, more in line with a vintage Submariner. This is the Tudor equivalent of a sub, if you could take that as a stretch. To me, though, unfortunately, it's a very neutered Pelagos. You know what I loved about the Pelagos. I mean, hell, you had one, you had the blue one.
Yep.
What I loved about it was things that were very distinctly different. 500-meter water resistance, helium escape valve, the way that Rolex designed it back in the 1960s with the automatic gas release system. The incredible, crazy on the fly adjustment diver's extension clasp that has been on Pelagos models since what? I don't know, 2015 when they came out,
Yeah.
2014 or something like that. I mean, this is what made the Pelagos the Pelagos.
It was weird to go to T clasp from that clasp because that was pretty much the alpha clasp of clasps.
Again, to me, it makes sense on a 58. Put it on 58.
Yeah.
It makes sense. You get the on the fly adjustment, that's fine. But this is not a diver's extension clasp. I'm sorry, it's just not. You need more adjustment than that. And I feel like this is a watch that was made very much for the WIS community. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. This watch is going to sell like crazy. And we've already gotten insider information that the first production runs of these Pellies are going to be very hard to get. And they're only going to go to people with probably some spend history
Meme
or some
accounts.
type
Wait,
of
what?
what's that?
Is it meme
accounts?
accounts?
Yeah, right. The rest of us can go take a long walk off a short pier. But it's the watch that everyone wanted. It's just not the watch that I loved that Tudor made. You know, I don't know, man. Something about the sunray finish dial making it look to me more or more then less utilitarian. Like it feels less of a tool to me. Now it's shiny and pretty. And cutting it down from 500 meters to 200 meters, it just like why even start at 500 meters? You know what I mean? Like if that was ultimately the goal, why
Yeah,
didn't
seems a little arbitrary.
why didn't the original Pelagos just come at 200 meters? You know, it's like why did we shoot the bar this high only to neuter it for the future? I just don't know what this watch is.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out who this watch is supposed to play against because if you wanted to play against the diver 300 meter, you think you would make it 300 meters,
Correct.
not two.
Correct.
A lot of people, especially now that you can't really get Omega at a discount, say that, well, they're not really in the same class anyway. I could accept that. But then you're still going up against the likes of Zinn, who put out 500-meter divers.
Yeah. Now again, there's titanium, there's Tudor. It's a much more established brand. It's a household
Right.
name. There's cachet associated with it. Again, this is a watch that's going to get a lot of community time when somebody's at the next meetup and they're rocking it on the wrist. Of course, everyone's going to want to see this watch, and I know from the photos of everyone that has already gotten hands on with this piece, it is objectively beautiful. It looks awesome. There's no question about that. This is a good looking watch. But my hot take is I just don't think it's the Pelagos that we remember loving when it first came out for Tudor. I just don't think it's that watch. I think it's a souped up Black Bay 58.
So you're saying this is more the Tudor sub we never got as opposed to sticking with the identity of the Pelagos.
Correct.
I can appreciate that.
I just think it marries the line between a 58 and the 500-meter Pelagos. Like it's somewhere in between those two watches. And maybe that's the idea. We take a watch that is extremely polarizing for the community in the Pelagos, right? 500 meters, tough as nails, big, brash, and we're gonna marry it with the smaller, more likable BB58, and we're gonna create a love child. And maybe that's what the Peli 39 is.
Could be.
It kind of splits the difference. Sizing there is there, technology is there, and it's kind of the best of both worlds for the average consumer. Maybe that's the thinking. I don't know. I just don't think that it's going to be. I just don't think it's going to be the tool watch that people think it's going to be.
I think this is going to be your Black Bay 58 blue. I think this is going to be white hot, and
And
then
then just fade out like a
you can get them, right?
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. And again, when you think about all the watches that are coming out right now, especially from Tudor, I just don't know where the focus for the brand is.
I will tell you, I think their goal seemingly has been to make more wearable watches.
I mean, I get that.
Right? You got a Ranger in a smaller size with an adjustable clasp. You got this in a smaller size and adjustable clasp. Right? There's one more I can't think off the top of my head that they dropped in a wearable size as well. But
I mean, the FXD, right? Like
oh,
that's
FXD,
still,
that was the one. So
yeah. It
FXD,
just didn't have a bracelet.
and then you have the 58s, right? So I think they are moving towards more wearable overall because I think people were saying these watches are refrigerators. I don't want to wear them. They're cool looking, they're sporty, they're tough, they have great specs. But at the end of the day, I don't want to keep this watch because eventually it just becomes an annoying wear, right? So I guess that's
I
where
mean,
they're
I
headed
guess
here.
still to this day, man, I just want to track down like an original chronometer certified. No, not chronometer certified. To this day, I want to track down an original Pelagos
It was
where it just
chronometer
said rotor
certified.
self winding. Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. I just couldn't remember, but it wasn't an in house movement at that time.
Right. The two liner.
The two liner,
Correct.
the OG.
That one may not have been a chronometer, but the one I had absolutely was.
Yeah, because the one once they went in house, then yeah, they were all chronometers. But I think the original two liner was not.
I think it's an ETA movement.
It wasn't at a movement. because it had a lower power reserve and all that stuff. But I mean, I remember holding one and I was just like, man, this is a very impressive watch. And I would still try to want to track one down. If I was going to go with a modern 500-meter Pelagos, it would be the blue. But the original
It
two
was a
liner
beast.
did things for me. So
And now your other main differences here. I like the red text on it. I think that's a nice
I
touch.
think that's cool.
Obviously,
Yeah, I
it,
think it's
it
cool.
goes it goes for a premium in Rolex. I don't think people care as much here, but I think it looks really good.
Yeah, but it's riffing it. So I mean, people are gonna like it. It's a little bit of pop of color on an otherwise, Spartan dial,
Yeah.
essentially. So I think it's warranted. I think it's necessary.
I'm curious about the choice of a no date. I don't think a date would have thickened this watch up too much. I feel like I don't know what the choice
No,
with
but
no date
again,
is.
that's why I say this is the Wiss Dream Watch, because the Wiss community is like, oh, it's not symmetrical. It's gonna, what we put a date at 3 o'clock. What are we? Like, no, man. It's just like it's because the average consumer that's gonna buy this one watch and wear it, they want a date. But the Wiss community, they're gonna want the sterile no date. So this is a watch that to me just appeases the Wiss community. I don't know. I'm conflicted. I mean, I wear a lot of watches without dates. I have a lot
Yeah.
of watches with dates. It doesn't necessarily bother me. But the fact that people get so persnickety about date placement, date, disc, color, how the date is integrated into the overall aesthetics of it, it drives me nuts. A date serves a functional purpose, is to give you the date. So it's just one less thing that the average consumer is going to have or want in that watch, because typically average people are going to want to have a date. It's the collector community that wants no dates.
Yeah. Yeah, I have found that out. The date watches sell much better.
Yeah.
I guess
I
from a
mean,
pragmatic standpoint.
yeah. It's just because it's a convenience factor. That's why watches started having dates in the first place. But, somewhere, some time ago, somebody decided that, you know what? No date watches were the only way to go. And all date watches are stupid. It's not true. Dates actually serve a pretty great function.
Now, the burning question on everybody's mind is, will they release this watch in blue? And my answer is, I'm not sure.
I don't know either.
I'm not sure if that steps on the toes of the FXD too much.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Now, this setup was the same setup that they ran with the LHD and the original. So I'm wondering if maybe to differentiate, they can make a blue LHD. Tudor, if you are listening, just do that. Make a blue LHD. This way it doesn't step on the nuts of the FXD,
FXD.
and it can be its own unique piece, and it gives you something to differentiate from the original Pelagos
I
as well.
I think that
Pelagai.
I think that would be a way to satiate the crowd for sure. I mean, because we always forget that there's actually three different Pelagos style references, right? You had the black dial, you had the blueberry dial, and then you had the LHD with kind of the vintage patina dial, right? And they had the red text.
Yep.
So I think that would be a happy medium, but I also think you'd have to lose the red text for the blue.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, I just don't think it's going to be cohesive and or congruent in the design language. But that maybe that's a way that you do it. I mean, and already now the precedent is set for LHDs, right? You get the Tudor LHD, you get the freaking GMT Master LHD. I mean, what's another one?
LHD, so hot right now.
So hot right now. But
No.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's a good way to satiate it. Now, here's the question: do you stick with the same color blue, or do you go something completely different?
Oh, I would absolutely stick with the original blue. It was too good.
Yeah,
I
or
would.
you could do something like a Marine Nationale blue, which would
Or
be
do maybe just do a blue bezel in that blue.
yeah, black dial, blue bezel.
Or you really want to get funky. I was thinking about other colors that they could possibly drop it in to really kind of mess with people. And I was thinking because they like to try to take shots at Omega, it would be interesting if they did a white dial black bezel, like probably the most popular 300-meter right now. Because then they could keep the red text and it
Uh
would
huh.
probably look pretty badass. aside from that,
I'm
I don't know.
sure that it would. I'm
I
sure
don't know
that it would.
what else you would get, like a maybe like a Kermit setup or like
Yeah, but people have been asking for that for years, and I don't think that they would deliver that.
yeah,
I think a blue LHD makes sense.
and it's out there
Uh,
enough. It's not
yeah,
it not enough
and
people
again,
are want that, right? Not enough people are clamoring for that like a Kermit.
no, I mean I don't know though. And here's the thing: were people really clamoring for the original LHD? Tudor just did it, and people were like, "That's kind of cool," or "It's not kind of cool." Like they're also not in the position where they have to care.
Yeah, they just
You
throw
know,
things at the wall and see what sticks.
yeah. I mean, they're not beholden to shareholders. They're not publicly traded. If this watch takes a complete downturn, it doesn't really affect anybody per se. You know, so I mean, I don't think, given what we've seen from both Rolex and Tudor, that a blue LHD 200-meter Pelagos outside of the FXD is actually not out of the realm of possibility.
I feel like it can get done.
I 100% think it could get done, especially because it would be different enough from both versions. You got the black hand RHD, you got the left hand in the blue dial, and then you have the FXD with no bracelet in the blue dial,
Right.
and it has a right hand drive.
That was my line of thinking as well.
Again, we're kind of splitting the difference between the two here, right? 500-meter Pelagos has a baby with a BB58. This is what we get, the Pele 39. Like that's kind of like where this happens, right? So what better way to make a new Pele than to marry the FXD with a new release, and boom, there you go.
Now, needless to say, if I got that beautiful blue in this watch, I would definitely check it out and maybe have to buy it. But I think if I had them side by side, I still might lean old one as well.
I just and maybe it's just nostalgia for me.
I
Maybe
mean, it
that's
is
what
for
it
me.
is. Maybe it's just nostalgia for me. Maybe I'm just too much of a hater, but I don't know, man. It's just I know, like when we had, the Ranger Things episode, like I know this makes sense. I know it makes sense for the vast majority of the watch buyers out there, whether they're casual people, they're actual collectors. Like I know it makes sense. But if I had my heart of hearts, if I had my way, we would have gotten a Ranger 34. We would have gotten a new 500-meter Pelagos. And hell, if you want to do something different, why not give me a 500-meter Pelagos with a GMT? Like,
Yeah.
just really just blow the game up. You know? I know Jason Heaton and James Stacey have been asking for that watch for forever. Because here's the other thing, too. The people that love the OG Pelagos, they love the OG Pelagos. There wasn't really anything that I ever saw or came across on the forums, on any type of ownership stuff, or any type of article that really said that this watch sucked, with the exception of maybe the 5 lines of text.
Yeah, that's always everybody's gripe about that watch.
But I mean, again, that makes sense because it doesn't need to say Pelagos officially certified, rotor self winding, and then the water resistance. Like, you could just eliminate rotor self winding. Like we all know it's non-matic.
Yeah, if you know, you know.
Or you just put it on the back. Like it's not a difficult thing to do. You know what I mean? Like this isn't, it always frustrates me when watch designers do this. Like I understand that you need to put silicone hairspring on the dial because the average person probably doesn't know that. But if that's the case, just put it on the case back where it doesn't have to obstruct my dial. You know? But even in all that, to me, the 500-meter one is still king. How could it
Now,
not be?
unconfirmed because I've heard this both ways. We had a friend that was at sort of a Tudor unveiling, and he asked the Tudor rep what the lug width was, and he kind of just said 20 and didn't seem that passionate about it. I've seen people claim that it is a 21 millimeter bracelet,
I wouldn't doubt it.
which would be unbelievably Tudor.
No, it would be unbelievably Rolex. That's what they do. That's what they do. As soon as you think you get what you want, they just take one more thing away from you. It's like everyone's like, oh, the new 41 millimeter sub. perfect 21 millimeter bracelet.
Now, I'm curious about that myself because I don't know if a 21 millimeter bracelet necessarily works with a 39 millimeter case.
It's all dependent on proportions.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. There's definitely not a lot of those floating around, so I'll be curious. It might be one of those like 20 point, you know,
But
two.
even still, man, if it's got some carryover, then that makes it even harder.
So frustrating.
There'll always be a gap if that's the case. But let me just see if I can find out for
Not on the
sure.
website.
It's not on the website. Are you sure? T fit clasp. Ugh. Um, yeah, man, I can't. You're right. It's not. It's got to be a 21. If it's not on the website, it's got to be a 21.
Ultimate troll move.
4400. You got your ultimate Pelagos, but God forbid you ever change it from that strap that we supplied you.
Okay,
I
I
mean,
think now that we've killed that, beat that to death, we can go off to some more happy releases. So Oris dropped a 12-hour bezel, diver 65, caliber
yeah,
400. I think it's good.
yeah.
I don't have a ton to say about it, but I think it's good.
This is for me a take it or leave it.
Yeah,
Like I can see why people are going to be excited about this watch because it objectively is a nice looking timepiece,
right.
but it's not a revolutionary timepiece, right? So I think if you don't have a Diver 65 in your collection and you like the idea of a 12-hour bezel, I think that this makes sense. I think it would be a great option to add to your collection. I mean, I love the Diver 65. It's a very thin platform. It's a great watch from Oris. This one is going to be upgraded with the Caliber movement, the Caliber
Yep.
400. So you're going to get the best of their in-house stuff. It's obviously going to be a little bit more expensive, but I think overall this is a great package if you're looking for something that is like that and you don't already have it in your collection.
Yeah, I heard a couple of people gripe because it has a 12-hour bezel. It could have been a GMT, blah, blah. Eh,
I mean,
buy it or don't, right?
exactly. I mean, but that same circular logic, it's just like the Seamaster 300 Spectre, like, oh, it could have been a GMT. Like, yeah, but it wasn't because we designed it with a 12-hour bezel. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it it's okay. James Stacy has been rocking a 12-hour bezel on his SKX for like 10 years. It doesn't have to be a GMT. The GMT bezel will do that for you. All the boys rocking their Qs are getting real mad right now. They're like, yeah, we've been doing it for a long time, man. We can still track it.
Well, that's the
It's
funny part
okay.
is it gives you a chance to track an extra time zone. It just doesn't
Yeah.
give you a chance to track two extra time zones.
Yeah, exactly. And here's the reality. As often as I travel for work, never in my entire life have I ever had to reference two different time zones at the same time. Okay. And here's the thing all you boys out there that are using GMTs, the majority of you are not traveling anyway. So your GMT is just an ultimate flex thing. It's okay. I understand. You're
Yeah, I
not
don't
always
think I've I
diving and
don't
I wear divers, you know?
yeah, I don't use the extra hand, but it certainly looks good.
Yeah. But it's just nice to know it's there, right? It's kind of bumping around, floating around.
Looks nice in pictures.
Yeah, absolutely. It just makes you feel more sporty, right?
Yes.
But no, I think this is again, take it or leave it. I think it's a great watch. If you don't have already something like this in your collection, this also might be a good alternative if you missed out on the Houdinki Ellie that they did what last year, the year before.
Yeah.
It's got something very similar in that kind of vein. The hour markers are slightly different, and of course, it didn't have the 12-hour bezel, but it had the diver's bezel. But I think other than that, you're still getting a 5-day power reserve watch. You're getting the caliber movement. It's in house for Oris. It's going to have some anti-magnetic protection. Plus, it looks like a bear when you flip it over, which is kind of kitschy and cool.
Yeah.
I think it's cool.
And then they also put out some more mother of pearl
Yep.
in 36 mil aquas. Pink, blue, green, kind of similar to the cotton candy motif a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, hey
Yeah,
guys, if you wanted to, if you were making a watch to donate next year, we could do that.
I
Just
mean
kidding.
36 mother of pearl pink, right?
No, but
Um,
speaking of, hold up. I think I don't know if you saw this. I think Hublot is really trying to get in on this action. Did you see
I did see
they
it.
claim that watch is purple? That shit is not purple. That thing is pink as all hell. It's like summer purple, it's called, or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, summer purple 42. Like
Thing
it's
looks like it was dipped in Pepto Bismol.
hey, I just doing a cursory search. Did you see the Hublot Big Bang one click?
No, come on.
You might want to take a look at that.
One click.
One click 39.
I'm gonna get Hublot targeted ads
Yeah, I
now.
know, right? Oh no.
Uh, is this diamondy one?
It's got like it's like steel, but it's literally our podcast colors.
No, that's definitely not the one I'm looking at.
Okay. I'll have to send you a photo of it because I'm like looking at this. I'm like, yep, that's it right there. Even with the alternate colors, we got it covered. All right, I'll send it to you right now.
The cheesy bang.
The cheesy bang, baby. I like it. But yeah, this summer purple, uh, it's an interesting color because it's definitely not purple.
It's thing is out there. Imagine giving away a Hublot for charity though.
I mean, that would be kind of epic, but it also be the one time somebody turns it down.
They'd be like, yeah, you could just give it to the next winner.
Yeah, it's like, hey, bro, like, I thought we were friends. It's like friends don't let friends wear hublots, right?
I don't need this evil on me.
Right. I know. But look, I mean, objectively, they do cool things. I'm not gonna throw mass shade. Especially because like this watch is ultra light and everything is made out of aluminum. Like it's kind of cool. So, more power to people that love Hublot. Sorry to all our boys and girls that might be listening in Miami. So there you go. $22,000 for the Unico Summer Purple 42 millimeter Big Bang.
But back to the Oris. So three dial colors, little mini Aquas. No new movement there, but I guess a more friendly unisex look.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess sort of a more is more feel there. That's about it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's some more options. I think that this was probably going to be a little bit more targeted towards ladies, which will give them some more color options. Obviously, there's men out there that are wearing 36s. And again, there's nothing overly super feminine about these color choices that a guy couldn't wear them comfortably.
Sure.
But I think, given the size and the colors are a little bit more on the pastel hue side, that maybe they're more feminine options. And I think you said it right. I think it's kind of like if you took the cotton candies and you just made them in steel cases versus bronze, and obviously in an aquas versus a diver 65.
And then pretty much the rest of everything came out was straight up just flexing.
Yeah, a lot of flexing.
So Moser still out here trolling with Vanta Black, but in a tourbillon and in gold. Actually looks really good. I think we
Yeah,
both like this one.
yeah. I
I'm
mean,
not the hugest Streamliner fan. You're not the hugest Streamliner fan, but
I'm not, man. I'm
this
not.
one is quite nice.
I know our buddies from other podcasts are like they're really about the streamliner,
Yeah,
and I understand the technical prowess that goes into making something like a Moser. Uh, the same collector buddy that has a Menace has a Moser diver, and it was actually one of the first of its kind to ever hit the U.S. He got like one of the first allocations, so very cool. I've seen this watch for years for him, and it's a great watch. Moser's an incredible brand, but I've just never liked the Streamliner. I just thought it was always kind of visually incongruent because it had this very like sculpted case, this very svelte design. Everything was integrated, especially because that was very popular when the Streamliner was introduced. But it mixed it with like this rally dial in true, Moser fashion, right? Like just when you think we're gonna zig, we zag, kind of like what we do. And they came out with this flyback chronograph, and then eventually there was a time only version, and all this stuff. But I just felt like they were like very sporty dials matched to like a very like somewhat elegant case. And I just didn't think it ever made sense. And now this Vanta Black Tourbillon really makes sense to me. I think it's I think it's badass.
Another gold watch. Interesting enough. Bulgari has Octos in gold now to celebrate 10 years of Octo. I had no idea the Octo came out in 2012. Like I swore that they were like one day while I was have been a watch collector that they were like, oh, we have this Octo Finissimo and it's super thin. Like everybody give us praise. It was not 2012, but apparently there
Yeah.
is 2012 models. I looked back and there's a gold one there, so now I have a gold one again, or a couple gold. I don't know. I had no idea this watch went back that far.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of appreciation for the art of this watch because all of the Octo Finissimos have just been getting even more and more and more and more impressive over the years as they've come out. Obviously, this is an art piece, and I think we've touched on this before. I can respect it. There's a lot of brand credibility that goes into something like this, and there's a lot of flex because it takes a certain level of technological prowess and know-how to be able to make these watches ultra thin with complications, all this crazy stuff. I mean, just
Stupid
not that long
NFTs on
ago.
the dial.
Yeah, not that long ago. Bulgari did the NFT, right? Where they had their they had what is it, a QR code laser
Bro,
etched into the barrel of
I
the
had a
movement.
meme lined up for that I didn't post because I thought people were gonna get a little chapped about it.
I mean,
It's the
it's
meme. There's a famous template of Drake reading his phone, and on the top it's like him like opening the phone, and on the bottom he's got like his jaw open, like he's looking at something absurd. And so the top was gonna be the guy scanning the QR code, and the bottom was gonna be that picture of the dude with his it was gonna be a loading picture of the dude with his large member out, but like it didn't get to the bottom yet. And so obviously
oh.
Drake was disappointed because that was the NFT that came with the watch.
That would have actually been pretty epic. I'm not gonna
In
lie.
my mind it was really funny, but I was like, oh, I don't know.
This is where you had to sometimes temper creativity.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's definitely not for everybody, but
yeah,
and I don't know if everybody would know what the bottom half of the picture should have been that wasn't loaded, but I would have known.
right, exactly. But I mean, again, and what's interesting is like we already got a 10-year anniversary celebration Octo series because it came out at Watches and Wonders. These are the versions with the sketch dials, if you remember.
Yeah,
And now I guess we're getting it in gold.
guess so.
So I mean, I don't know. I I love and appreciate the technology and goes what goes into these watches because they are it truly impressive. Just for me, and I said this before, I just don't know if this is going to be the style watch 10 years from now, 5 years from now. Are people really going to want this look? Is this going to be the timeless fashion that everyone is looking for now in 10 years? And apparently it's been around for 10 years already. So maybe, but I don't know. We'll see.
And they
We'll
also
see.
just dropped, I don't know if you saw it, an all mirror finished one.
Yes, I did see that one.
The dial looks like one of those games where it's like it used to be a toy and it was like a square and it had a bunch of pins in it and you
Mm-hmm.
could put like your hand or your face in it and it would show,
Yep.
yeah, the pins. That's what the dial looks like.
Yeah.
And it looks like they just went to the Grand Seiko factory and just went nuts on the Zaratsu polishing wheel for the entire thing. I have to imagine
Yeah.
this thing is like bling bling in person, like it just blinds you. because that's what it seems like. But
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those watches too, where it becomes more about the artist representation rather than the functional art of
yes,
telling the time.
100%.
So, I mean, I get it. I get it.
I don't need to know the time or
It, yeah,
be able to
exactly.
see.
When you spend this much money, it doesn't matter, which is true. I mean, arguably, that's very true. So, this one's a limited edition piece. Looks like it's 360 models, so truly a limited edition. Um, but yeah, mirrored finished dial. So it almost looks like really like the hands are floating
Yeah,
from what I
it
can
does.
see on the rendering. So which is kind of cool, but again, also begs the question is like, is this legible enough for me to utilize as a watch? That remains to be seen.
And then we from there we just go on to flex, flex, and more flex. Ulysse Nardin dropped some rainbow watches, some mid-sized divers, and then a larger skeletonized rainbow gem set watch.
Yep.
If you're not into rainbow, this is not for you. Plain and simple.
Yep. And one's a tourbillon. So there
Yeah.
you go. What do you
Uh,
think, man?
I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I really don't pay attention to these watches. Like when they come out, I look at them because I want to see what's going on. I want to
Yeah,
see
for sure.
how the bigger and more. Well, I don't want to say bigger, but more expensive, more exclusive brands, how they're moving trend wise. I like to look at, but aside from that, I'm never buying any of these. Even if I had the dough, I'm still never buying one of these.
Yeah. And somebody posted here on the comment of this on Monochrome. It said, I remember when Ulysse Nardin made beautiful watches. However, they keep producing overpriced, incongruent timepieces. Sound absurd? I own two Ulysse Nardins that are beautiful without mayhem, absurd dials. Someone else commented, you're 100% on the dot. And I think that this is kind of highlighting some of the things that are interesting about Ulysse. Um, you know, for many, many, many years, especially when I first got into watches, like you would think about Ulysses and you would think about the freak. You would think about some of these crazy complications, the erotic models, like all of this crazy art stuff, right? And even some of their diving watches and stuff like that were still very expensive. And now I think that they've really been struggling to sell or get people kind of into the brand. And so they've had to make less and less and less expensive watches to kind of keep the lights on, if that makes sense, at the factory. Because I keep seeing, more of these divers that are like 10,000 or 8,000 or whatever. And it's just these rainbows are no exception. They're like, 13, 1,400, of 13,000 or 14,000 Swiss francs, which, it's pretty comparable to US
Right.
in money. So, but then I look at something like the tourbillon and like that's impressive.
Right.
That makes sense. And it also makes sense given the price point, right? Like it's 85,000 Swiss francs. But then you're juxtaposing that with two divers in 39 millimeters with rainbow diamonds at 12,900 Swiss francs, according to the price.
Kind of strange.
It's a little strange. So you're making these uber high end pieces, and you're also making kind of lower end pieces too, which is interesting.
On from there, MBNF has a split escapement legacy machine, kind of a alternate layout to the regular legacy machine that we're used to. Again, I don't pay a ton of attention to them. They make interesting stuff, just not my cup of tea.
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of respect for this brand. I actually really do like MB&F. I will never be able to afford one of their watches because they are astronomically expensive, but it makes sense. They're beautiful watches. I'll never forget the first time I was looking at an MB&F Legacy Machine 1. And I remember staring at this watch for such a long time until it finally dawned on me that I could see the escapement floating over the dial, which it's not supposed to be there. It's supposed to be underneath the movement, right? And that's when I was like, okay, this is something that's a lot different than what we see normally. And I fell in love with it. And since then, we've talked about this several times in the pod. The Elaine Silverstein versions that have come out over the years, like those legacy machines, I do very bad things to get those watches. So I have a lot of respect for them. But to your point, it's hard to keep track because they keep coming out with consistent fire in price points that are not accessible for me to even pay attention to. It just becomes white noise. So if you're out there and you got that kind of bread and you can get yourself a legacy machine, go do it because it really is an impressive piece of art. And these watches are designed and engineered by some of the most gifted, talented minds in the watchmaking industry today. Period. But for me, MB&F, it's only the legacy machine line. I don't like anything else that they do.
And last but not least, Audemars Piguet drops a couple of Royal Oaks. One a little more in the traditional look, tapisserie dial, flying tourbillon, which is interesting, in teal, which is very non-traditional, and titanium.
Also a little bit, less traditional.
Kind of, yeah, kind of a strange one, but I think it's a pretty decent looking Royal Oak. I mean, I'm sure people will go nuts for it, and nobody can afford it,
Yeah,
but it'll look good on your favorite basketball player.
exactly. This one has kind of like a gradient dial, right? Is that
Yeah,
is that the
it's
one I'm
pretty
looking at?
nice. It's a good look.
Because they did one before with a teal dial, and it was a tourbillon. Do you remember this one? I'm trying to remember what it was for though. It was in platinum.
Oh, okay.
It was platinum and titanium, limited edition with a power reserve indication. But this one had more of like the Tiffany color dial,
Mm,
whereas this other one is
1970s Orient teal.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Kind of like that Orient diver we talked about a few episodes back, right? Yeah, this one was more of like that, like Tiffany, like aqua blue color. And it looks like these are LEs for oh, makes sense. Yeah. These are LEs for the United Arab Emirates. So these are UAE limited editions. They only made 10 of them. And they were basically a mix between titanium and platinum.
Hmm.
Manual wine tourbillon with a power reserve indication. Really beautiful looking watch. Just, astronomically expensive. So this I think is maybe taking that style code a little bit further and adding in the blackened periphery. I think it's cool. The dial also has a little bit more of like an iridescent effect, it looks like. Um, but I mean, it's an AP tourbillon. Like, what do you
That's what I mean. After we're done talking about this, it'll go in the part of my mind with all the rest of the APs that I have forgotten. You know,
yeah. I mean, I've worn an AP. I've worn a skeletonized AP for probably about a week or so. Collector buddy of mine let me borrow one time, and it was very cool to say that I got to wear it, and I could see why it was so beautiful and everything like that, and amazing, watch. But honestly, I didn't like the bracelet. I think I've touched on this before. I didn't
yeah,
like the bracelet. I basically have no hair on my arms, and it was a hair puller, which I take that for what it is. It looks awesome when you rotate your wrist in the sunlight, but when that link catches you just right, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt like a Seiko 5 bracelet. And I know you and I have both been shaved over the years by Seiko
I
5
have. I
bracelet.
certainly have. And then they also put out a perpetual calendar in blue ceramic, which is actually quite interesting.
It's cool.
It's a cool watch.
It's cool that they were able to master, ceramic, especially when it comes to bracelets. Because let's be honest, it's very difficult to become a master of ceramic. And my favorite brand has been doing ceramic and even blue ceramic for so many years now. But they don't have a version with the blue bracelet. So I think it's very cool that they're carrying this forward. It's a really vibrant blue.
Yeah, it is out there.
I mean, it's blue. But I mean, again, it makes sense. It's a cool piece for them to do. Again, perpetual calendar, like that's already a complicated watch. So we'll see this watch on Ed Sheeran and John Mayer and all those guys who are gonna be rocking, ceramic perpetual APs. But for the rest of us lay people, um,
You're not getting a Royal Oak Neptune. Sorry,
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I guess maybe that's what we call it, right? The Royal Oak Neptune.
the Neptune
Um,
ceramic.
I mean, it kind of looks like the Neptune, right? Good old moon swatch that you can't get right now. Yeah, man, I think it's cool. But this is just another hypeware piece. You know, like I said, Ed Sheeran, John Mayer, they'll be rocking this watch on stage in the concert. Maybe some guy walking down Wall Street will have one. But this color blue is also a very interesting color because to me, when you look at it, it's like this is a hard watch to wear all the time.
Yeah, it sure is.
It's a very vibrant color. Like the white ceramic, okay, that makes sense. It's a very Miami watch. The black ceramic, okay, that makes sense. It's a little bit easier to wear because you can wear black watches. But blue ceramic is very out there. Take that for what you will. I think it looks good. I would wear a blue watch every single day. The vast majority of the public would probably not because it's a blue watch. But then again, the vast majority of the public cannot afford this watch. So maybe it's just another flex piece.
Yeah, so that kind of concludes the flex segment of Geneva Crotch Days.
Geneva Crotch Days.
And basically the whole thing. I mean, it's not really a as much of a trade show as the ones we mentioned earlier. That there's not
Yeah.
such a huge offering, and I guess it's an opportunity to drop some stuff or pepper in some releases that you didn't get out earlier in the year or that you pushed back. Um, but I think kind of like you said, it's almost a forgettable event at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I guess it is what it is. The more the merrier type of deal. But I don't think anything really earth shattering came out of this. I mean, the 39 Pelly is cool, but again, there's so many questions surrounding it and so many little things that I think people are unsure about right now.
Yeah.
So we'll see, I guess. But I'll definitely try to check that out. I'll see if I know I work near a pretty prominent New York jeweler, so maybe I'll pop in one day and see if they got one
Yeah.
just to
I
check
mean,
out.
like I said, I think it looks really good. I think it's going to satiate the vast majority of the consumer public. It's just not going to do it for me.
No, I think it's gonna sell like crazy, but
Oh, absolutely.
I
There's no
just don't.
there's
I don't
no
know if
there's
I
no
will be adding
question.
it to my collection. I know
Yeah.
people close to me are already looking at it and already trying to move stuff,
Yeah.
but but I don't know if I am.
Yeah. No, yeah. No. We'll see. Maybe it just means I finally have to go pull the trigger on an OG Pelly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I was trying to kick around if this one became a darling, if the old ones would come down a little. I don't think they will. I don't
At
know.
least not initially. At least not
No,
initially. Because the other thing too is like every single time I see somebody wearing a Pelagos, it's usually the five liner or whatever it is, and not the original like two
18
liner.
liner.
Yeah, the 18 liner. But yeah, man, it's we'll see. We'll see what the market's gonna do with the now discontinued versions.
But
Because
I just think like for example, when the 58 came out, the 41s, not they nosedived or anything, but they were definitely less desirable at that point.
oh, for sure. For sure. That's
So
always gonna be the case.
so maybe you get a little psychological effect like that.
Yep. But if there's anything that the flip side could also be true because I know when Omega discontinued the 1861 Speedmaster for the new 3861, everyone started to go out and buy the 1861s before they were officially done.
Yeah, I did hear that.
So it's kind of interesting because it can work both ways. It just depends on the desirability of that respective collection. So we'll see, man. We'll see.
So I should probably stop talking about how good the other one was.
Yeah, it sucked. It was horrible.
uh, all right. I think that's about sums it up for episode 46, unless you got anything else to add.
No, man, I'm good. I'm good.
All right, then. Until next week, we will catch you all later here on Wrist Cheese Radio Podcast. Schmitty, be good.
Take care, guys.